Welcome to the midweek podcast of Friends, Drinks and Fries. This is a special bulletin that is touching upon a very interesting development that took place in the middle of the night and early morning today. In what got dubbed as the midnight surgical strike within the government of India, banned the Popular Front of India and 8 of its affiliates for a period of 5 years for unlawful activities. Questions had been raised repeatedly for more than 2 years now on the body and its activities since its role in a series of riots following the enactment of the CAA. What got the cake this time, however, was evidence following raids of a plan to assassinate India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi that emerged from Patna a few months ago. The body has a stated objective as per leaked documents following a Patna raid earlier this year that I have mentioned of re-establishing Muslim rule in India by the year 2047, the year they feel would be culminating a century of Muslim oppression. It had prepared a hybrid strategy for the achievement of this objective. PFI, of course, is not the first of its kind. Much of its original cadre and form came from the earlier banned Student Islamic Movement of India or SIMI, which later became the Indian Mujahideen also. On many an occasion, there were instances since 2009 when the nefarious activities of PFI came to light, be it the chopping of a professor's hand for blasphemy or conducting arms training camps without permission with the hardcore rifles and such weapons. There was plenty of evidence piling up against the organization for nearly a decade or so. Earlier attempts to ban it, of course, had failed judicial scrutiny because they were not conducted or undertaken under the right legal provisions. This time, there is this opinion, however, from the legal fraternity that the ban might uphold scrutiny because it has been brought under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act or UAPA, which is an extremely stringent measure to tackle terrorism and hardcore extreme violence on the ground. One set of people, of course, are skeptical about the success of the ban following it. The rationale that they give is that the SIMI, of course, managed to reorganize and a lot of them had ended up as the cadre for PFI and rank for PFI. And also, prior to becoming PFI, a section of them had become the Indian Mujahideen. Of course, one tends to deny in this discussion the fact that there was a significant amount of political patronage that was the reason for its continued sustenance in one form or the other. The ground, however, this time is very different, where even these somewhat seemingly secular parties or self-proclaimed secular parties are refraining from talking out against the ban altogether or criticizing it through quibbles at best. This clearly shows that an Overton window has shifted with respect to the way the government sees the people viewing the PFI. This is, of course, not enough. There are a lot of other organizations that also need to face the heat now. One of the questions that the ban has raised is as to why the SDPI, which is the political front of the PFI, allowed to continue so far, with a lot of calls being raised for its ban as well. Of course, the thing is that there are a lot of these organizations within South India that really need to be put under the scanner. For instance, the Tamil Nadu Tawheed Jamaat and its political arm, the Tamil Muslim Munnetra Kazhagam, with their nefarious role when it came to the Sri Lanka Easter bombings, are a matter of record, and these are organizations that really need to be questioned hard now. Similarly, we also have the issue of the Zakat Foundation of India, where we have seen how they were instrumental in the influx of Rohingya refugees illegally into India. One of the biggest worrisome factors around the Zakat Foundation is not the fact that it is training Muslims to quote unquote capture institutions, but the fact that it has openly stated on record that Muslims are in a state of war with this Indian state by invoking the idea of the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, which I would let the viewers discover on their own as to what it means. That should, in my opinion, be a reason enough for a severe crackdown on the organization. There are, of course, a lot of other actions that still need to be done more seriously. Some things have happened on the ground for sure, but continued surveillance strategy and action is definitely welcome. One of the things that we need to worry about is the fact that a lot of these organizations continue to get money one channel or the other. In this, the role of such diaspora-based bodies such as the Indo-American Muslim Council, the Indian Muslim Association of Kuwait, and many other similar organizations who repeatedly gave funds to PFI and its sister organizations has come up, and these are organizations that really need to be acted against very significantly. What can this action be? Should it be about making people persona non grata, or should it also be about ensuring that fund channels can be completely closed in one way or the other? Of course, it would be a bit of catching up, but we need to take action as soon as possible on the same as well. Now, there have been questions around the fact that the organization might revive, and of course, there are risks where it might happen. In my opinion, the states that are probably the most likely recruitment grounds for a regrouping seem to be Bihar, Jharkhand, and West Bengal for a variety of reasons. Primarily so driven by the fact that there is a lot of activity on the borders of Bihar and Bengal with international collaboration, so to speak, of certain intelligence agencies in stoking Islamic terrorism or in one way or the other. Of course, the question has also come whether Rajasthan, Kerala and Andhra would be recruiting grounds as well, and that's certainly a fair ground of criticism, but I do not believe that in the present moment or in the next couple of years we would be seeing these places as active recruitment grounds for a couple of reasons. One, of course, in a state like Rajasthan or Andhra, there has been significant clarity with respect to Islamic terrorism. If people remember the way the Rajashekhar Reddy government, the present Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister's father, that is, had dealt with Islamic terrorism, it was actually quite strict, and that is a legacy that the son would like to carry forward. Of course, it does not mean that he would not be doing appeasement politics, but there would certainly be a no-nonsense stand towards terrorism. Also, given the fact that there is a significant threat of alienation of otherwise Hindu voters, they would not want to do that. Rajasthan's polity is actually quite Hinduized, much to the surprise of some people. Of course, Ashok Gehlot has done anything but had a Hindu government, but it is also about the administration and a clear stance that it would take, irrespective of who the chief minister is. Kerala, of course, is something that might be of surprise to some from my assessment of why it would not be the immediate recruitment ground. Kerala, of course, two historical reasons. One, Kerala was the recruitment ground for PFI and was the place where it's regrouped. So, of course, there would be extra vigilance on the state. So, it would be very difficult to conduct such activities, say, unlike a Bihar, Bengal or a Jharkhand. Another thing about Kerala is that Pinarayi Vijayan in recent months has been taking a U-turn on the appeasement politics and has in fact dealt very severely with Islamic appeasement in the state. So, given the way the communists actually work, it is to their interest that a parallel power center does not come up which mirrors theirs in any district now. In fact, if you remember when the PFI tried to call for a hartal even in the northern Kerala provinces, there was severe pushback from local Muslims, traders and shopkeepers, and they were beating up PFI cadre in quite badly. So when you that is actually a result to some extent of the way the communists have decided to align themselves with a certain position right now. So that is of course one fact that makes Kerala an exception, just like Rajasthan and Andhra Pradesh as I see it. I am not denying the possibility, of course, but I don't see the possibility arising in the next 2 years. Bihar, West Bengal, of course, are also important states to watch out from what I understand, because a lot of hawala money illegally and fake counterfeit currency has flown in through these routes in the past, be it the Malda route or the Sitamarhi route. Also, the borders around Nepal are infested with a certain kind of ideological breeding. So, we really need to be very careful about these districts. And of course, the fact that in these three states we have governments that have actually outdone or outshone the Congress when it comes to appeasement. If you remember, in Uttar Pradesh during the reign of Mulayam Singh Yadav and Akhilesh Yadav, we had the regrouping of the Simi and Indian Mujahideen taking place. That was primarily because these were organizations that were heavily patronized by the so-called secular Samajwadi party at the time. And that is the kind of threat that these three states have. Akhilesh Yadav is not in power in Uttar Pradesh, so the possibility of that kind of patronage coming up in UP is definitely low. Simi, in fact, had taken birth primarily in UP and MP, so that's why these states were not necessarily the ground for the regrouping. And Kerala, as I said earlier, would not become the ground again, would not take the chance. One state I had mentioned in passing, of course, that does pose a threat is Tamil Nadu, and we really need to be very vigilant because of the Sri Lanka bombing connection that we have seen in the past, as well as the fact that terrorism in the Maldives also has ideological direction being given from certain clerical institutions of Tamil Nadu, as has been discovered very recently, also during the time of the investigation of the Easter bombings in Sri Lanka. So these are some things that I thought we all should be knowing and should be cognizant of. Of course, some thoughts from my side as well. The measure is, of course, a very good step. It was long overdue. Of course, funding needs to be cracked down. Diaspora people should be made persona non grata for supporting such organizations. A strict eye should be maintained on all those people who are peddling the line or are also trying to portray it as some kind of a freedom of speech issue now. So the sooner we realize the enemies within, the faster it would be. One thing is for sure that PFI as an organization would find it very, very hard to revive itself now. Whether a new organization comes in place or not is for all to see. But rest assured, PFI is as good as dead for now. That was all for this special bulletin. Do stay tuned for our Saturday weekly catch up, and we look forward to hearing your comments and views on the thoughts that have been put out about the PFI ban. We'll be talking about that and many more host of issues that have turned up over the week. So stay tuned.